Good morning, welcome to day 59 of Geriatric 1944's Coronavirus Diaries. Today I want to talk a little bit more about the law and the judicial system. I've touched occasionally on various lawyers that I've had association with, including the prosecution QC in my last trial, at which, I remind you, I was acquitted on all charges. And it was a farce. The whole trial fell apart. It was absolutely useless. The prosecuting counsel was a woman called Rosina Cottage QC, and I've described her as appalling. It's a bit unfair, really. She was only doing her job, but the trouble is her job over the years has become really absurd and vile and disgraceful, because very rapidly it was discovered, obviously, that juries could be influenced by extreme language. So as a result, all the prosecuting counsels trying to prosecute somebody, whatever it's for, speeding or murder or forgery, fraud, sex allegations, false allegations, has to boost their basic case by pushing it into extremes and using the most awful adjectives. And they're allowed to do this in their opening address. And of course, the opening address is always covered in the media. It's still all online, the opening address, full of lies, which were proven lies, as I was acquitted at the trial in 2018. But this ghastly language with these dreadful lies in them are given to the jury at the beginning, and any juror worth their salt goes, this person has to be guilty of what they're being accused of. I've never heard such ghastly things. Anyway, Rosina Cottage QC did her job, as she does with most people. I'm probably one of the few who actually got out of it okay, and has actually dared mention her name, but she is only one of the dozens and dozens of prosecutors. I remember the one in my first trial who is now a judge, David Jeremy, back in 2001, was equally ghastly. Anyway, lawyers in general are not bad. The trouble with lawyers is they've got lots of cases and lots of work to do. So to be quite honest, you're not the number one in their lives. I mean, actually you may be, but they probably also got another 15 or 20 people. And that's why you really have to take charge of your case, of your defence, because you're the only person who knows the truth and the reality. You're the only person who can examine the details and find out exactly what's wrong or what's right, what's true and what's false, and so on. As I said to you before, we took on a private investigator, and our private investigator was absolutely brilliant. But essentially, and he's always said this to me, I pointed him in the directions I wanted him to go. In most cases, the defendant is so completely gobsmacked by the entire appalling situation, they think, well, you don't hire a dog and bark yourself, so they basically let the lawyers get on with it. Serious mistake, not because the lawyers are incompetent, but because the lawyers don't care that much and are not au fait with every little detail. So my private investigator really looked into the most tiny details, and I pointed him at the things I wanted him to do. One of which, one of my false accusers, who made his whole story up, said he'd met me on one occasion, and that was the only time he had any contact with me. In fact, his answer when the police were questioning him, did you have any contact with him after that? His reply was, no, why would I have? Anyway, I asked my private investigator to track down his mother, amongst other people. His mother would have confirmed in court, was never needed because the whole thing fell apart and I was acquitted, but that actually I had phoned the home several times and spoken with him several times after this event, and had done so because I was promoting records and he was helping me promote records. I can't remember even ever having met him, but dozens and dozens of people in those days I utilised by sending them free records, and those they really liked, I got them to tell their friends about it and to basically rush around spreading the word. It was terribly useful to me. I remember when I was running Decca, there was one particular artist that this elderly gentleman, then a young man, was keen on, Keith Hartley. And there was a Keith Hartley album that I discovered in my diary, sent out to him to help promote and push the word around. He, of course, denied all of this, but then suddenly, when faced with the fact that we tracked down his mother, crumpled and collapsed in court because he realised that his lies would be all proven lies by his mother. But also during that time, I had scrapbooks. I still have scrapbooks that in the old days, back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, whenever you were mentioned in a newspaper, even vaguely, you had a service that found it wherever it was in the most obscure publication and sent you a copy of it. And therefore I've got scrapbooks. I think I've got 90 or 100 scrapbooks, all of which were seized in 2001 or 2000 and photocopied every single page. It must have cost them a fortune, and kept by the police and examined by the police. Well, if the police had examined this, they would have found this too. And in fact, I'm sure they did, and chose not to pick up on it because it really destroyed this false accuser's case completely. And police don't like doing that. And as a result, my lawyer, who was very, very good, by the way, my solicitor, was going through all the pages and came across this clipping from an Aberdeen local newspaper where this man said that he had been the lead singer of one of my groups, of his good friend, Jonathan King's groups, the Weathermen. Well, we were able to prove that was a complete lie. He had to admit in the witness box it was total fantasy. He rather hysterically then said, but what I've claimed isn't total fantasy. And I could see the jury going, oh, yeah. It's things like that and other such matters. What frightens me, Operation Hydrant, which is a police body meant to look independently into the behaviour of the various forces, examined the appalling Surrey police behaviour during this. And one of the things they mentioned was they excused Surrey police for not trying to contact the mother, as saying, oh, private investigators can do these sort of things where we, the police, are not allowed to do it. Why aren't they allowed to do it? Because it might prove the liar's case false. Well, the trouble is, police are meant to be balanced and look at all sides. Police ought to be checking to see if the liar, or rather the liar's mother, might give evidence that he was making the whole fucking thing up. Police ought to do that. But the new way the police behave is when they've got something, they should only try and get the conviction and shouldn't look at the other side at all. Indeed, if they found evidence that the other side was actually untrue, they should conceal that evidence and certainly not show it to the defence. You've heard all about the failure to disclose, and that's a major issue. So that, to me, is a big part of the trouble here. The official police say, actually, police should not be behaving in a balanced way. I say they should be, and that's why the entire system is broken and radically needs changing. Anyway, I'll leave you today with that song that was a big hit for me back in, I think, 1970, 71. It's my version of a wonderful four-top song that I always thought should have been a hit in England but never was a hit in America. And I put it out under the name The Weathermen. There's a story behind that involving the singer-songwriter Phil Oakes, but I'll tell you at another time. But it's rather good, I think. It's quite different. It doesn't sound like a Motown record at all. It just took a great song and turned it into a huge hit. All by me and session musicians. There was no other lead singer, despite what the false accuser said to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the Weatherman, otherwise known as Geriatric 1944, or Jonathan King, and his huge hit record, It's the Same Old Song. See you tomorrow.
You're sweet as a honeybee, but like a honeybee stings, you gotta let my heart in pain. All you left is our favorite song, the one we danced to all night long. It used to bring sweet memories of a tender love that used to be. Now it's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. It's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. Sentimental fool am I to hear an old love song and wanna cry, but the melody keeps on haunting me, reminding me how in love we used to be. Keep on hearing the part that used to touch our heart, saying loving forever, darling, ever and ever. It's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. It's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. Precious memories keep on lingering on. Every time I hear our favorite song, now you're gone. In this emptiness, I only reminisce the happiness we missed. We used to dance to the music, we danced to the music, and romance to the music, romance to the music. It's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. Girl, it's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. You hear me singing? It's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. It's the same old song, my girl, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. It's the same old song.